Hello, Manchester. I'm Dave Karellen, Head of Paid Search at Click Consult. Today, I'm going to be talking about machine learning within PPC, and hopefully presenting an unbiased view of the topic. Now, rather than just presenting a viewpoint, my main aim is to be able to give you actionable insights that you can take home to improve your accounts. I say an unbiased view, as I very much want to give an honest appraisal of the problems the industry is currently taking when it comes to adopting machine learning. Now, machine learning can be one of the most powerful tools, but frequently it's misunderstood by people. Now, generally, people are split into two very distinct camps when it comes to machine learning adoption. On one side, you have the tinfoil hat wearers who, at best, think that machines are going to take all the jobs away, and at worst, think the judgment day is right around the corner. On the other side, you have people who lap up any new buzzword that they hear, often confusing the actual concept. And on their extreme are people sporting fading tattoos of I Heart Big Data, and whose calendars are filled with "This is the year of mobile," right through from 2011 to 2016. These as well are the people who actually claim to like the new AdWords interface when it very first came out. Now, this is nothing new, and history is littered with examples of where automation has disrupted technology, right through from Henry Ford to Steve Jobs. Now, the face of those who ardently oppose automation is very well documented, but those that don't appreciate the need for a balanced approach, they tend to fail just as spectacularly. Very recently in the news, Elon Musk has been forced to concede, amongst other things, that the approach Tesla was taking to building a new Model 3s was too heavily reliant on machines, and he had to concede that humans are underrated. It seems that too much or too little automation can be equally detrimental. So what exactly is machine learning? Machine learning is different from standard automation processes, as a tool can improve its ability to complete tasks based on how well it fared in previous attempts. Now, this allows the tool to effectively learn by a series of feedback loops to inform it. And there's nothing more magic, no complicated bit than this. And on its own, machine learning represents a massive step forward for automation by improving performance. And machine learning has the potential to empower advertisers who are determined to take their accounts to the next level by improving tasks and advancing them, such as bid optimization. Now, to be very clear, I'm 100% for machine learning when it's presented in this very pure form of the idea. However, this isn't the only way in which machine learning is currently being presented to advertisers. And I'd like to start discussing some of the challenges faced to adoption, starting with looking at the inputs we have available. Now, most examples of machine learning in AdWords can be found in the automated bin strategies and also in the ad rotation settings of AdWords. Now, if we look first at the ad rotation settings available in AdWords, now up until September 2017, we had the following choices available. Now, I wouldn't say this is a particularly fantastic choice there, but at least it's preferable to post-September 2017, when we're left with the following, which is a binary choice. Are we for machine learning or are we against it? How limiting is that? You see, the optimized setting is going to allow Google to favor particular ads which are more likely to perform generally in terms of click-through rate, but also in terms of conversion volume if you can join it with a bin strategy. But you see, the problem here is that there's lots of inputs that we'd actually want to control for and questions that we'd ideally want to be answered. So, for example, what level of statistical significance are we using here? Is it 90%, 95%? We don't know. And more importantly, we can't adjust for it. What if we want to optimize quicker or indeed more precisely? And if we can join it with an automated bin strategy, not all conversions are the same. Some will have different values. How do you deal with micro and macro conversions in the same breath? And also, what about sale ads? Ultimately, you'll have your standard set of ads which you want to optimize against, but you want to distinguish from these from the sale ads, which you want to have an even share of voice. You want them up for a certain amount of time. Ultimately, as well, the ads are going to get stale over time if we are just if we're just favoring certain ones and not replacing them. The whole point of ad copy testing is to be able to see not just which ones work, but which ones don't. But as it stands, we're not alerted as to when certain ones should be removed and replaced so that we can keep our ads fresh. And linked with that point, in terms of creating new ad copy, machine learning could really help us in terms of finding out what themes actually work best, so that can inform future ad copy testing. But as it stands, we don't have those choices available. So until we have the inputs to match your strategy, then Google's solution isn't complete. And instead, you need to look to build your own tools and cannot completely depend on it as it stands. So instead, if you build your own tools or use a third party, you can look at R1, for example, that we use for ad copy testing. So in this case, we're using the confidence level that is correct for us. We can adjust it if we want 95%, 99%. We're using metrics which are important to us. So in this case, we're using profit to eligible impression rates, which is arguably a lot more powerful than just click-through rates on its own. APIs are set up in the back end to inform us when a winner's been found, so that ultimately we can replace the one which hasn't worked that well, and over time build up a knowledge bank. So this knowledge bank will build up over time, and the main thing with this as well is there'll be more on this later with the, how you create these through machine learning. So it's not just the lack of inputs that's a problem. The second biggest issue surrounds the process itself. And machine learning within PPC has become synonymous with black box activity. What I mean by that is that the exact information on how the algorithms work is kept under lock and key, i.e. you can't see what's going on behind it. And to an extent, this makes sense. Neither Google nor any other third party really want to disclose all of their intellectual property. It's very much the same case as with SEO, where the exact nature of the algorithms is kept a secret, and for good reason. But this is PPC, and these are tools which are supposed to help us. But it's been taken to a point where advertisers don't actually know what to expect from the tools on offer. So anyone can come up with a set of black box tools that claim all manner of superlative performance boost, even this guy. But without knowing the processes behind them, how would you know which ones to pick? Black box systems don't allow us the control we need as advertisers. The only way to know which tool would work best is by testing them. And that's definitely the best way of going about it. But if we knew a bit more about the systems and how they worked in advance, then the more sophisticated advertisers will be able to pick a tool that they know is going to work best in each scenario. And this would save time. So one of the biggest examples of a Google black box was the old school conversion optimizer, affectionately known as conversion floptimizer. And this used all manner of black box magic to all but guarantee poor to mediocre performance, with no one knowing exactly how it worked, or indeed if it did. Now, AdWords automated bin strategies have come a very long way since the dark days of conversion floptimizer. They're a lot more advanced and indeed varied. However, there's still not that much knowledge behind the inner workings of them. To give another example of a Google black box, very few advertisers will be prepared to invest in a pure broad strategy due to the inherent ambiguity of how far removed each of the different search terms can be from the original keyword. Now you can see with these ones, when you increase the bid and thus increase the ad rank, everyone knows that you potentially open yourself out to, quite irrelevant terms if you invest in a pure broad strategy. But the issue here is you don't know very much about that contextual barometer in terms of exactly how it works, and that's the black box system there. You'd be very hard-pressed to find true PPC specialists who were thrilled about the close match variant updates. And in fact, most advertisers or very true PPC specialists have spent most of the time in those scenarios figuring out ways to circumnavigate it and look to scripts to get around those close match variant updates. And it's no different with the new bidding strategies. But for those who aren't willing to commit that level of trust towards the strategies, it's still possible to find a compromise between man and machine without needing to resort to black box strategies. It all comes back to control. Now, is anyone familiar with the Pointer Sisters' 1983 song, Automatic? Anyone? 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 Okay, I found the other forces then. Sing it. I'm not going to sing it, Kerry. Well, one of the lyrics in it is, there's no way to control it. It's totally automatic. Now, despite the Pointer Sisters' very clear authority on the subject, I, for one, don't believe that automation and control have to be mutually exclusive. Now, the best systems can be transparent and easily understandable. And I'd like to show you one we use ourselves for bid optimization. Okay to click that? Oh, it's already going. Is it going? Yeah, okay, so what we've got here is downloaded from AdWords a list of keyword data for each of the different keywords for all the main metrics, and we've got 6,790 to deal with. So not something that you could deal with in a very quick way manually. The first thing this tool does is automatically categorize by the main KPI, in this case ROI, so strong ROI, poor ROI, etc. And then we have a look at the other metrics as well, and based on how we've performed, we have different multipliers for each. So if, for example, we look at the conversions, then you can see those with more conversions were willing to push a bit more. Similarly with the positions, if something's closer to position 1, then we don't want to push it as much. There's no point pushing something that's in position 1. And all these multipliers combine into a final multiplier, and then also ultimately into a new bid as well. Now, all of this is automatic, and it's done at scale. This is where the machine helps us. But then the human touch comes in, and this is where we have the adjusters. Now, the adjusters allow us to change the back end of these formulas. So if you keep an eye on column P for position there, now, as we adjust this, all the back end formulas change. And this also gives us an idea of what the top-level budget's going to do. If we change it back, then you get another idea of what the budget's going to come out as. Now, tools such as these represent a workaround to bridge the gap between man and machine and automation control, so the human element can be integrated. Now, as with machine learning, feedback loops can be used to ensure these tools evolve and adapt over time. And anyone with a good Excel knowledge can, build tools such as these. I wouldn't say this is anywhere near perfect. You can take this a lot further with scripts. But the philosophy of retaining control and transparency must always remain at the heart. Okay, so the next issue facing the direction of machine learning is around competitor strategy differentiation, which in layman's terms means if everyone's adopting the same strategy, then who's winning? Now, target our ranking share is one of the most obvious examples of where no one wins if it's implemented by two competing advertisers. Now, target our ranking share is basically saying to Google, I want my bids to be bigger than his. Now, the only person who wins there is Google with inflated CPCs. And in this example, you can think of Google as the gun manufacturer. So machine learning, though, it doesn't always look for you to be trying to one-up the competition, though. So if you look at the great work by TensorFlow, now this uses machine learning to help aid cancer detection. And again, it's things like that Ellie mentioned earlier this morning, that it can be used to help with the visually impaired, etc. It's not always looking for you to be one-up in the competition, but this is advertising when we're using it here in PPC, and it's driven by the competition. And there's always ways to differentiate yourself with creative ad copy, but this shouldn't be the only avenue available. It's fine to automate menial parts of account management, but not cornerstones where you can add real value. Advertisers want to add this value. Do we want it dumbed down to a scenario where it's very similar to an AdWords Express style setup for everyone? I mean, who wins there? Are we in danger of leveling the playing field too much? To make real gains over competitors, you need to look to uncover trends yourself. Even if machine learning is already making use of these trends, by knowing them yourself, you may find that useful outside of just PPC. So one of the more creative ways to get actionable insights from your business data is through analyzing search term reports for word trends rather than whole terms. Now, the new AdWords interface, it's not all bad, shows you some of these top words on the Overview tab. But unfortunately, it's not downloadable for all of these words. And indeed, you can't see the exact performance for them. So instead, you need to use Excel tools to aggregate word performance for every word that's appeared in a list of search terms. And this can help you spot trends which may not have been very clear when the data was too diluted. And it can be used as well to inform what terms to use, not just as new keywords, but also in terms of ad copy. And that goes back to my early point about building knowledge banks as well. And it can be also used to inform content on landing pages and indeed other marketing channels such as email. Now again, this connects back to the system being too black box unless we build tools such as these. But more than anything, it represents a clear way of gaining a competitive advantage over advertisers who are relying completely on automated solutions. And this allows you to impact the wider business. Now, the final point I'd like to cover on where we have to be careful with machine learning are in cases where measurement ability hasn't quite caught up yet. Now, even with the ability to import offline conversions and advanced call tracking, it still can't paint the full picture. So let's consider some examples. If someone new to your business converts a £100 sale, as well as a returning customer who's already loyal converts a £100 sale as well, both have been acquired at the same cost. Now, which one represents the greater lifetime value? Generally, you'd say that it was the new acquisition, because person who's already loyal, you can kind of like put that money in the bank, whereas the new customer, that's potential revenue stream later. So the exact difference, though, in lifetime value is something that's very hard to measure, but it's still possible. But you have to decide it manually yourself. But as you have to decide it manually yourself because it depends on your own business, this isn't something that's going to be automatically factored into an automated bidding strategy. And it doesn't help as well that once you've figured these insights out, but you can't integrate it into audience bid modifiers in a meaningful way. Automated bidding strategies and audience bid modifiers just don't gel well together, basically. Again, this goes back to early points of a lack of control within black box systems and not being able to add, the business value you need to. But there's even more difficult customer differences that we need to consider in this beyond just lifetime value. So every retailer is going to have certain products that the customer base will absolutely love, more so than the rest of the product base. Now, these products are more likely to turn customers into brand advocates who will not only remain loyal, but also tell other friends about your brand as well, and thus drive more business. Now, this is very difficult to measure. I mean, you can get an idea of a product's ability to turn someone into a brand advocate, let's call them advocacy products, by having a look at which ones have the highest positive reviews. Now, this isn't just cross-device attribution now. This is cross-user attribution, very difficult to measure, but it's both a real thing and definitely not negligible. It's a similar concept to lost leaders being used to drive more business. And as it stands, the best way to integrate this into your strategy is to test high positive review products in high positions and see how this impacts the bottom line. But this isn't something that's being factored into automated bidding strategies, at least not yet. So looking now at attribution, one of the obvious big steps towards machine learning and attribution is the data-driven model. Now, the data-driven attribution model uses machine learning to help attribute value across multi-step conversions. Now, this has been one of the most divisive developments recently in AdWords. Some people are incredibly for it, whereas others very much cling to last click. Now, to be clear, I definitely fall into the incredibly for it category, but I definitely stop well short of saying that this is the holy grail of attribution. And it's because we're still a million miles away in terms of measurement ability, as illustrated by the previous two examples. Now, 2 years ago, I gave a speech about attribution, detailing how the best approach was to find as many customer insights as possible, layer them into your strategy, and build your own attribution rules based on this, testing each against the bottom line. Now, at the time, I thought it would be a lot longer before we had a system as strong as data-driven attribution. Anyone who isn't using data-driven attribution, if it's available to them, perhaps due to not having buy-in from upper management, you need to understand that last click's reign is ending. However, even more importantly, anyone who believes that it's, as I said before, the holy grail of attribution is equally mistaken. Despite data-driven coming a lot faster than I, for one, anticipated, this doesn't mean that measurement is anywhere near to 100% caught up. So as such, we still need to look to overlay custom rules, and this is possible within GA360. So the data-driven attribution model can be used as a baseline, and on top of that, you can then start overlaying your custom rules. So whether someone's a new acquisition or whether they purchased an advocacy product. Now, using your own findings in conjunction with data-driven attribution helps you regain some of the control and lets you make a competitive edge in your vertical. So always make sure you test it against the bottom line though. Just never think that data-driven on its own will give the best results. It's a very good baseline, but until measurement catches up, the human touch is still needed here. So to summarize, machine learning represents a massive step forward for the future of PPC if it's used correctly. We should all embrace it into our strategies, but need to be careful of when it's bundled into one of the following 4 scenarios. So when there's only limited inputs available, in these cases, it's best to shun and build your own tools. When the system's too black box, in these cases, test thoroughly to make sure it matches your expected outputs. And if possible, still do look to build your own transparent machine learning tools so you know what's going on behind them. When there's no chance for competitive gains, in these cases, be creative and look for areas that no one's thought of before. Automate menial parts of account management in all cases, but not areas where you can add creativity and real competitive gains. And finally, when measurability lags behind. In this case, accept machine learning is very useful, but realize its limitations and overlay your own measurement analysis when possible. Thanks, everyone. If you'd like to speak to me more about machine learning, I'll be in the afternoon panel session. I hope you found this useful. Thank you.